Okay. I'd like to call this meeting of the Township of Springfield Planning Board to order of April 27, 2020. Adequate notice has been given in accordance with the Sunshine Laws. Notice was published on April 14, 2020 in the Star Ledger, which happens to be the official newspaper of the Township of Springfield for 2020, and posted in the Annex Building on April 15, 2020. It's also on the Township website on how to connect to Zoom and how to ask questions on this meeting. Let's do a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before we start the meeting, I just wanted to take an opportunity on behalf of the board to thank the police, the fire, our first aid squad, everyone for really going the extra mile over the last 6 weeks of what's been going on in this world. And also thank Apu from the first aid squad that's helping us run and conduct this meeting. It is obviously our first electronic meeting that we've had, and since I've been on the board 14, 15 years now. Jen, can we have a roll call, please?
Yep. Committeeman Rich Huber.
Here.
Mr. David Barnett.
Here.
Mr. Andrew Schwartz.
Quarantined but present.
Mr. Jerry Fernandez.
Here.
Ms. Sylviane Grabowski.
Here.
Mr. Aaron Loffer.
Here.
Mr. Brian Brendel.
Here.
Ms. Marissa Ruggiero.
Here.
Mr. Scott Wishna.
Here.
Vice Chair Sharon Kessel.
Here.
And Chairman Tiger.
Here.
We have a full board.
Full board, great. Well, thanks everyone for joining. We have on the agenda, we have a few items. Let's first take the March 2nd, 2020 minutes. I'm sure everyone had a chance to review the minutes. They were posted on the Google. If anyone has any questions or concerns.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to make sure that the stenographer that we had hired has the ability to listen to the meeting. I don't know if
she's there.
Okay, great.
But I'm not taking the minutes now. I'll take when you start your application.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Fine. Okay, so the minutes from the March 2nd, 2020 meeting were out there. Everyone had a chance to review them. I saw no issues with them. Any questions or concerns? If I don't hear any, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of March 2nd, 2020.
Second.
I'm just going to say all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain?
No.
By seeing none, the motion passes. Okay. Next is a resolution. It's application 1-2020S. It's LL4 LLC, 35 Stern Avenue, block 3101, lot 9. This was a building that had a vacant lot next to it. They subdivided the lot off. It was a minor subdivision with bulk variances. The board heard this application on March 2nd. The resolution, it was on the Google Drive. I had a chance to review it. No issues with it. Any questions or concerns?
No.
Seeing none, can I entertain a motion to approve the resolution?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for approval of resolution 1-2020S as read by the chair.
Any second? Sylviane?
Second.
Can I have a roll call?
Who seconded?
Sylviane.
Mr. Barnett.
Yes.
Committeeman Huber.
Yes.
Mr. Fernandez.
Yes.
Mr. Loffer.
Aaron, you're on mute.
Sorry. Yes.
Okay. Mr. Brendel.
Yes.
Ms. Ruggiero.
Yes.
Vice Chair Kessel.
Yes.
And Chairman Tiger.
Absolutely, yes.
Motion passes.
Perfect, and that will be our application. From what I understand is they're coming before the board next week. We'll have the same meeting next Monday, and it'll be for that application to put a building on there. The next thing is we have 3 ordinances that were sent over from the clerk that the Township Committee had 3 ordinances, amendments. The first one was to supplement the land use regarding how many buildings could be on a lot. The second one was to regarding conditional uses for establishments, and the third one was regarding having a 4-foot fence, a 6-foot fence versus a 4-foot fence. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Disco to really quickly update the board on what those 3 changes were. And then I'm going to open it up to the board to discuss all 3, so everyone can comment on each one together. And then if there is no dissent, we'll entertain a motion for all 3 at the same time, so we don't have to do a roll call on each one. So seeing Mr. Disco.
And I'll just, as a background, many of you are aware that in 2018, there was a land use committee, Sam Mardini, Bob Michaels, myself, Robert Herbert, the zoning officer, Jen Law sat in on that, members of the BID, and also the Board of Adjustment chairman. And so that was a very comprehensive review of the land use ordinance. When Sam left, it kind of fell by the wayside. So some of these we're picking up as needed when something happens. So the first one was regarding number of principal buildings on a lot. Up through 2016, the language was in there to allow only 1 principal building per lot, other than in some of the multi-unit zones. For whatever reason, that was removed in 2016. So all we're doing is restoring the language essentially that put it back to 1 principal building rather than having 2 or 3 on a individual lot. So that seems to be straightforward. It's the way we had it, and we're just restoring it that way. We also had to supplement land use regarding conditional use for massage. We've had this lingering problem with how do we classify massage establishments, whether they're permitted use or not. There's different zoning determinations on that. So what we wanted to do was get them to be conditional uses in the appropriate zones, which are the non-residential zones. So it was really, we analyzed where when you delete the residential zones and you look at what the other municipal properties are and schools and the like. And so we came up with the language that was, again, came from the committee in 2018, nothing new. And it's just that we've gotten some inquiries on massage establishments when they're made aware of the municipal ordinances for massage, not land use. They usually disappear because there's a lot of fly-by-night types of things. So nothing really controversial with that. And then we also had the third one, which was the heights. The Board of Adjustment has been inundated with side yard variances for fences exceeding 4 feet. So it does not address or change any language in the front yard. This is just to allow side yard fences to be 6 feet, which matches the rear yard fence maximum height. Very straightforward and would eliminate a great deal. Jen could probably speak more to it, how many they get a year. She does those lovely bar graphs and tables. So they get a lot of these, and this is just one way to address an appropriate thing. And it's comparable to what other municipalities have in terms of side yard permitted fences. And again, we're talking on the side of a house, not forward of it.
Perfect. Thank you,
So
Mike.
those are the 3.
Keenan, Mr. Hughes? Any concerns with these 3?
No comments on those 3.
Perfect. Okay, so seeing none, I want to open it up to the board for a quick discussion. I'm just going to go in order of the way you guys on the dais. First one, Jerry Fernandez. Jerry, any questions, concerns on all 3?
No.
In here, Jerry. No?
No questions.
Okay.
No
good.
questions.
Perfect. Mr. Wishner?
No questions.
Mr. Schwartz?
Can you hear me?
I'm good. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mrs. Kessel?
No question.
Mr. Barnett?
On the fence ordinance, the side yard fence, is there any guidance as to where the fence has to hit the house? So for instance, right now, you can put you can put the fence if it lines up with the back of your house, right? If you have a normal lot, you can't bring it to be flush with the front of your house. So was there any guidance in the ordinance provided that 6-foot side fence then connect to the back of the house or to the front of the house, therefore potentially making it a front yard fence?
It can go up to the front corner of the house. Can't go past that.
Okay, so on a side yard, someone could have a 6-foot fence parallel with the front facade of their house.
Yes.
Okay. I know that my years on the planning, on the zoning board, we had a ton of those. That's been going on for years. And I'm surprised that we finally figured out massage parlors too, because that's always been hard. All right, that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Huber?
No, that's good.
Ms. Kabowski, still?
No, I'm good.
Mr. Brendel?
No, good.
Mr. Loeffler?
I'm good.
And Mr. Ruggiero?
Nothing for me.
Perfect. So seeing there was no major comments, would like to entertain a motion to instruct our board secretary to send our clerk, Mrs. Donnelly, a letter that, or notification that the board unanimously had no issues with the ordinances, the modifications to the ordinance, and then it's consistent with the master plan. Is anyone, can I entertain that motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, I'm gonna do a roll call, and this is the roll call on all three that we discussed.
Mr. Barnett,
Yes.
Mr. Brendel,
Yes.
Committeeman Huber,
Yes.
Mr. Schwartz,
Yes.
Mr. Fernandez. Mr. Fernandez,
Yes.
okay. Ms. Guzekowski,
Yes.
Mr. Lawfer,
Yes.
Yes.
Vice Chair Kessel,
Yes.
Yes.
and Chairman Tiger.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Okay, so Jen, Ms. Law, you'll send it over to Linda Donnelly's office?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. Next thing is we have the application 11-2015S. This is Morris and Central LLC, 259 to 279 Morris Avenue, lots 7 through 19 Caldwell Place, 14 to 28 Center Street, block 706, lots 10 through 17. This is for final site plan and redevelopment plan. For the board's information, if you want to reference Mr. Disco's letter of April 24th, as you're aware, we ended the meeting on back in the beginning of March there were just 3 issues that we left to Mr. Disco and Mr. Hughes and the police chief to resolve. The first issue was the fence for children to walk along Caldwell Place and Morris Avenue and so forth. Second one was sanitary sewer calculations to the Raritan Valley Sewer Authority. And the third issue was the fence along the rear yard of the property where it was basically a 0 lot line where it was up against the 2 property owners. So those were the 3 issues that were outstanding. I understand that the applicant met with Mr. Disco and the police chief and so forth, and they've had some additional discussion. So I'm going to ask Leonardo to introduce the application, and then I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Disco to talk about the issues, and then Leonardo, you can discuss whether you agree or disagree, and then we can discuss the next steps. Is that good?
That's fine. Thank you.
Leonardo, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone, and I really appreciate you guys getting together. This is this is probably my second or third planning board meeting, and this is going pretty smoothly compared to the last couple. So you guys have got your act together much more than a lot of folks. We represent Morris and Center Ave LLC. We've been before you on this modification in November, in January, and March, and we're back tonight. We've renoticed. I'm pretty sure that Mr. Keynes and Ms. Laub are comfortable with the jurisdiction. I have seen the report dated April 24th from Mr. Disco, and I've had probably 3 or 4 conversations about the contents, and we are comfortable with his recommendations, and we will accept his recommendations and comply with them as stated.
Perfect. Mr. Disco, can you, for the board's perspective, just review the 3 the 3 last things, and then we could discuss what next steps are?
Sure. So in no particular order, but the order that I wrote them, the first issue was there is a variance required for the 5-yard rear yard setback up against the property. I think we handled all the testimony on that. What I was asked at the last meeting that we had, which was, I think was March 2nd, I'm not sure it might have been Andrew. Somebody was asking what were the widths of those driveways that we were up against. And so we went out, and that's what item number 1 is, and there's photographs too, hopefully you all got them. The property, 23 Caldwell Place, the current driveway is 10 foot wide. picture shown, I think, is good because it shows a vehicle in the driveway with space on both the existing house, brick house, and then what is a construction fence, which would be pretty close, I think, to where the applicant's barrier would be. And then the other photo shows 28 Center Street, a 9-foot driveway. Again, there's vehicles in that driveway, so they show it in context with the lane of the two structures that are there to kind of guide it. So I think we had all agreed that we were going to go with the masonry barrier because it was a more permanent, more durable one than the wood fence. There was some leeway if the property owners preferred the fence. I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth. I don't think anybody cared really. We attempted to contact the one property owner who lives on the site. We couldn't get there. I tried multiple times. The other one was a rental. So I'm comfortable with the way we left it, and I hope I addressed the driveway width for whoever needed that information.
Okay, the second issue?
Second issue was RVSA. Mr. Steiger had testified at the March 2nd meeting. Essentially, we needed some calculations showing that we had capacity in the receiving line, the Springfield line that's located on Morris Avenue. Those calculations were submitted. They are essentially right on the border of whether it's deemed having capacity or not having capacity per DEP. It's 79% full under current conditions. With their flow, that doesn't take into account the Saks flow. They also were asked to mitigate as well. So they did submit the calculations. If you were designing this and going to the state, you couldn't design it as the current pipe out there, but per their definitions, right on the border of whether there's capacity or not. So the mitigation request was to create the capacity in the line. I think everybody is in agreement with that.
We are in agreement.
Perfect. And also the one other thing, and I'm sure it'll be in the resolution, it's to also comply with the township's ordinance with connection fees and so forth that is outstanding.
I think Mr. Keynes had that covered.
Perfect.
We will comply.
Perfect. The third issue is the
third issue was the in-street wood construction barrier that surrounds the property on Center Street and Caldwell. As you all recall, it's the wood barrier on Morris Avenue. Currently, it's just the open chain link fence. The concern was, what are we doing on Caldwell? We met multiple times with the applicant subsequent to the March 2nd meeting, which was a bumpy road at the end. So we got everybody together, the police, the applicant, the Administrator Basicolo was involved with that. And we came up after a couple of meetings with a plan that we felt would work, that the applicant felt could work. And that we generated a agreement memorandum on March 18th. The only thing the applicant requested was, instead of within 30 days, within 45 days because of the pandemic, and that's very understandable. For instance, the Wawa property, we can't get the fence people in there because the guy's quarantined in Peru. Guy can't finish the dumpster thing. He's quarantined in Pennsylvania. Doesn't mean they're sick. It just means that these states and other entities are not allowing free flow of people. Delaware is the same way. So I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth. I discussed it with the administrator. I spoke with the chief cook today. I think he's listening in. And the 30 to 45 day parameter, given the situation here, didn't seem to be anything objectionable and was reasonable.
And I think and the board can agree that we'll make you the arbitrator if it has to go to 60 days because of things deteriorate or things get better. We'll leave it to you to kind of resolve it in the way that's best for the board and the public. Leonardo, did you agree with everything?
Yes. We've met with everyone in town, and we've come to what we think is an awesome solution, and we're fine with implementing it as discussed.
Captain Rachel, I believe you're on. Did you have anything to add from the police standpoint, or are you in agreement as well?
I'm in agreement. Everything that we discussed, as long as it gets implemented, it'll be fine.
Perfect. Okay. Seeing no other concerns, Leonardo, is there anything else you want to add, or can we close the matter and then I open it up to the board for just some questions of anything with Mr. Disco?
No, we rest our case.
Perfect. So I'm just going to poll the board with see if the board has any questions of Mr. Disco or any of the applicant's professionals. Mr. Steiger's on, Mr. Musil, the architect, is on, and who else is on?
That's it for tonight. And I think we have one more, Mr. Musial. We have his son as well, who we may have to let into the conversation. I'm not sure if he's been let in, but there are two Musials, his father and son.
Okay, so I'm going to start with Jerry. Any questions?
Just one second. Elnardo, we swore all your witnesses in, did we not?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. Go ahead.
No. And I probably actually should have, before we started, you've reviewed, Mr. Keynes, the notice with Ms. Law, and you find it acceptable with the change because it's online versus here?
Mr. Webster took care of everything that we asked.
Perfect. Okay, so seeing nothing else, I'm going to turn it over to Jerry. Any questions for any of the witnesses, or Mr. Disco, or Mr. Hughes too? Any of the professionals?
Not at the moment.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Mr. Wishna?
Nothing right now.
So, with respect to the sewer capacity issue, when and I guess for Mr. Disco, when we're saying that we're just at capacity based on the estimated flow from this project, what does that consider as far as the retail uses? I would imagine a restaurant might have a higher flow than a dry use might.
Yeah, there's state standards for the uses. So the application, which also has to go to Railway Valley and the state in this matter for review, they're using that component of new flow. And then what they did is also over, I think, 5, 6, 7 times, various times of the day, they measured the existing flow in the sewer line. And using the worst case depth, then they added their flow in, they come up with 79% full on that sewer line. Now, this is an 8-inch diameter line. So if you look at your laptop and conceptualize 8-inch diameter, more than 3/4 of it is full, but not 100%. DEP uses the function of 85% as unacceptable. So we're very close to it. This doesn't include the SACS flow, which is upstream of this. Again, we've asked SACS to mitigate. So when it's borderline, but the applicant can mitigate for the flow, meaning he can do upstream improvements. Very simple. Sometimes it's just a dish manhole inserts, they're called, and you get rid of extraneous rainfall that comes into the sewer system. So you can mitigate it and basically have no net impact, that type of thing. So we're trying to get it so that it's no worse than existing and would therefore have the capacity of the existing line.
Okay, so I guess the question I really got is that, assuming there's more restaurants used for the retail component, would anything get them closer or above 85%? Or do we just simply incorporate into the resolution whatever upstream improvements need to be made to mitigate?
Correct, the second one.
Okay. No other questions.
Mr. Schwartz?
All of my questions have been satisfactorily answered.
Perfect. Ms. Kessel?
No questions.
Mr. Barnett?
As far as the sewer goes, are any of the work you have to do going to disrupt traffic during the construction on Morris Avenue?
State Road.
Did that go to Mr. Steiger, I would assume? Or is that Leonardo?
I could certainly help in that regard. The sewer line along Morris Avenue is actually off the roadway. It's really under the sidewalk area. It hugs right where the existing building foundation is. So there's certainly going to be an impact that they would probably not be able to have pedestrians. If the police felt that during construction, they would need the parking lane shut off, I don't think that's unreasonable. I think for the sewer, I would expect that the roadway would remain open, but obviously that would be a call that the police would have to make. I hope I answered the question.
Okay. No, I was just wondering if during that work that has to be done if there was going to be any disruption to traffic on Morris Avenue. And then then my next question would have been, what time of year would that have been, as well, given as best that we can figure out what a schedule is. Other than I'm fine with everything, I thank the applicant for working with the town on the wood fence. Otherwise, excited about the project, so thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Huber?
Yes, I just want to put in the resolution that the applicant will maintain both sides of the fence at all times. I don't want it to fall to the wayside a year or two after and it start, anything happen to it. I want that in the resolution.
I see Glenn writing it down on my Zoom right now.
Thank you, Glenn.
Sil?
No questions.
Mr. Brendel?
No questions, but glad everyone can work through it together. Thank you.
Thank you. Aaron? Mr. Loeffler?
I have one question. I just remember from the last meeting we were discussing as far as pedestrian traffic about safety for kids when they're leaving school. How is that going to be handled during the construction period? Will there be easy access for kids? We're talking about police presence. I don't see that addressed. I don't know if this is the right time to ask about it, but I do have that in my notes.
It's a question. Mr. Disco, Leonardo, do you want to answer that?
I'll take a stab at it. So essentially what we're going to do is, everybody's familiar with the wood fence along Caldwell. The applicant is going to put a Jersey barrier. I don't know if everybody knows what that is. Those are those precast concrete. Basically, the center of the Garden State Parkway, for instance, those are Jersey barriers with plantings on both sides. In construction zones, they put these barriers in. They're 24 inches wide. The police felt we would be able to accommodate 24 inches. They're going to be braced against the bottom of the wood wall, and then the top of the wood wall would be braced over the walking area to a fence along the property line of the property. We would create a lane, in effect, for pedestrian access in there. And as long as conditions warrant it or permit it, that would be the way pedestrians would be handled, as well as having the detour in place as needed to restore it to the pedestrian detour that's in place, but properly signed.
And there's still crossing guards there during normal school hours like there would be.
Yes.
Okay. Aaron, does that answer?
Yeah, I'm good. Okay.
Mr. Girio? Marissa, any questions?
Nope, nothing for me.
Perfect. And I have no other questions as well either. So at this moment, with the board's permission, I'm going to open this matter up to the public for a discussion on this application. For the public's concerns, public can ask any questions of the application, of any of the witnesses, ask our professionals any questions or concerns. We're going to limit it, given that we're on a Zoom, we're going to limit it to 3 minutes for each member of the public to speak. So Apu, if you wouldn't mind queuing the public and for our question, if any.
We have one person.
Go ahead. They're going to have to
Mayor
state their
Capides.
Mayor Capides. Okay, well, this is going to be good. Mayor, can you state your name for the record and so our counselor can swear you in?
Chris Capides, Mayor Springfield.
Mayor, I can't see you, but I'm sure you're an honest guy, so raise your right hand, please.
Okay.
Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth in proceedings before the board this afternoon, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I promise I won't take all 3 minutes. I just want to say and congratulate everyone on this great endeavor. This is definitely a positive step in the right direction for Springfield. I would like to thank our applicant. I would like to thank our planning board. I know this is a multi-tiered approach and there were several layers to this whole process. And I just appreciate everyone's hard work for what I believe is the right thing to happen this evening. And I do appreciate everyone's effort from the township all the way to the applicant. And I look forward to the productive relationship in the future. Thank you. Good job by all.
Thank you, Mayor. Apu, any other members of the public that wish to speak on this application?
I'm not seeing any.
All right, I'm going to give it one, going once, going twice, going 3 times. There's no other members of the public?
Just for the record, if anybody from the public does want to speak, just use the Q&A button, please. But I don't see any. Mr.
We'll give it another quick second or so to see if there's any other people joining.
They're only going to be speaking on the application. We'll open it up to the public after we get done with this, just to see if there are other matters. Okay, Mr. Chairman?
Yep, that's the plan. All right, seeing no other members of the public, I'm going to close this matter to the public and render it back to the board for questions and concerns. From the public standpoint, I think this is the application is just for rear yard variance down to 0. We remember, if the board remembers, the reason for the justification for that was for us to have more sidewalk area so people could eat. The benefits we felt outweighed the detriments. Glenn, do you have any other, you want to read a few of the conditions before we put it for a vote?
Sure.
Just some of the big ones.
We've already, just for the record, and this is the perfect time to do it. We already drafted up a tentative form of resolution. It has many, many conditions in it. I would ask that you all take a look, get comments back to either, I guess, Jen or me, because Jeff, when do you want to, Mr. Chairman, when do you want to vote on that?
We're going to do the resolution at our next Zoom meeting, which happens to be next Monday at 5:30.
Okay, because of us having to work remotely and make changes and stuff, if you have any comments, if you could get them back to Jen or to me, I think by Wednesday, that'll give us a chance to fix it up because Patty's working remotely also. And then, Leonardo, did we give you a proposed form of resolution?
I don't have one at this point.
All right, I apologize. We'll get it back. We'll get you at least the one that was drafted, but I have to add some stuff. So I'll try and get that to you in the next day or so.
Sounds good. Thank you.
There's going to have to be some mitigation to make sure that the sewer line has ample capacity. That'll be subject to Michael's final review and approval, and the applicant will need to respond directly to Mr. Disco as our engineer. We're going to change the amount of time to up to 45 days, subject to Michael also granting additional time if they need to in order to deal with the fence issue. I did the upstream recommendations. Applicant, let me make sure I do this right, Rich. Applicant will maintain both sides of the fence at all times. And I think that was it, other than what is in the draft resolution that I hope, Jen, was that circulated to everybody yet?
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
Then adding in about they have to comply with any bond,
that was already in there. That was already in there.
All right. That's fine. We'll work it out before next week. So the only variance relief was for the rear yard setback. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. And
okay.
preliminary and final site plan approval, right, Leonardo?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I want to entertain a motion to approve preliminary and final site plan with the one variance for the rear yard setback. We will adopt the resolution next week. Before I do, I want to thank our business administrator. I know he worked very hard on this. He's been a good partner with all of our professionals, Mr. Keenan, Mr. Hughes, and the police, and to get this resolved. So I want to make sure we thank him as well. So can I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, it's my pleasure after 8 years working on this project to make a motion for the approval of application 11-2015S Morrison Central LLC, 259-279 Morris Avenue, 7-19 Caldwell Place, and 1420 Center Street, Block 706, Lots 10 to 17 for final site plan on the redevelopment project.
Who wants to still second it? Go ahead. Have a roll call, Ms. Law.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, who seconded it?
Sylvian accepted it, and then the roll call, please.
Mr. Barnett?
Yes.
Ms. Grzybowski?
Yes.
Committeeman Huber?
Yes.
Mr. Schwartz?
Yes.
Mr. Fernandez?
He's frozen in time.
Frozen.
There he goes.
I'll come back to him. Mr. Laufer?
Yes.
Mr. Brendel?
Yes.
Mr. Fernandez?
That's good.
That's good. He said yes.
Okay. Vice Chair Kessel?
Yes.
And Chairman Tiger?
Yes.
And that was for preliminary and final site plan approval with ancillary variance relief.
That's correct.
Okay.
All right. Next thing is I want to take this opportunity to open up.
I just want to say thank you, guys.
Yeah, no, thank you, Leonardo. Thank you to your team for joining, and look forward to working with you guys. Review the resolution for next Monday.
Thank you.
Perfect. The last thing for the board to do
Yeah.
is open this meeting up to the public for any other ancillary matters that the public has.
Yes.
or applications. Any members of the public, Apu, that wish to speak?
None have put anything in.
Yeah.
Seeing none, I'm going to close this meeting to the
Yes.
public. Wait.
Yes.
Jerry's saying yes. I think it's from before, but that's
Yes.
yes, Jerry. We agree with you. From this standpoint, I think Jerry was making a motion to adjourn.
No, I think he was approving the motion to adjourn.
All right. So all in favor?
Aye.
All right, everyone. Thank you very much. It was a great, successful meeting for the first virtual planning board meeting. Everyone should be happy. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Stay safe.
Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.